Hey guys, it's Nick with What I'm Watching, and today I'm here to talk about the film Mandy. Okay, Mandy was released in 2018, starring Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough. Everybody else in the movie was pretty much unknown actors. It's an independent film. It was directed and written by Panos Cosmatos. Uh, it was written by several other people too, but I'm not even going to bother to go through and read the names because I was not a fan of the film, and I'll get to that in a moment. It was produced by a handful of people too, but among those was Elijah Wood's name was on this, so I thought, it might be good, and everybody was talking about it, how awesome it was, and then I go to check it out. This movie runs 2 hours long. It's 2 hours of my life that I can't get back. Okay, as I said before, it's an independent film. And it had Nicolas Cage in it. This movie could have done without Nicolas Cage because he really didn't bring anything to this movie but his celebrity, I suppose you could say. So I imagine most of the budget was spent on paying him when they could have used that money to put into the film to make it better, if that's even possible. Um, this is like I said, this is a movie that people have been raving about, so I had to check it out, and it was just garbage through and through. Like I said, it runs 2 hours long, and it takes an hour before anything even remotely interesting happens. You don't give a fuck about the characters because they're just kind of odd and unlikable. Um, there's no depth, no story building. Basically, it follows. If there's spoilers, I'm sure there's going to be spoilers in this. So if you plan on watching this trash, then don't watch the rest of this. But basically, it follows a couple that live in the middle of the woods, and they're just like loners. They're weirdos, and then fucking this cult. It's like 1970s fucking cult looking motherfuckers roll through, and dude sees chick walking to work and he's like, hey, I gotta get me a piece of that. So he sends his little minions out after her to bring her to him. Now here's the fucked up thing about this is that, like, was this supposed to be a horror movie, an action movie, a drug movie? Because it's an LSD inspired movie. And I love acid. I've done it in the past, you know what I'm saying? Had good times, and I've seen some acid movies that were decent. But this, I mean, that's one thing I'll say about, like, when they kidnap the bitch. And okay, well, let me back up. First, they have this horn that they blow, and these creatures show up on motorcycles, or so I think they're creatures. They're supposed to be regular people, but they're more like monsters, if that makes sense. These monsters, they use these monsters to kidnap, to tie up Nicolas Cage and to kidnap the chick, but basically they kidnap her and they bring her back to the cult compound or where they're staying at. They're like, hey, welcome to the cult. Now I'm a retired rock and roller, or a rock and roller who never made it. So instead I started a cult, kind of reminiscent of a Charles Manson type, mixed in with a little David Koresh maybe. And they dose her up on acid, and then she's tripping balls. And there's some experimental filming techniques where her face and the cult leader's face blend in and out of each other, and you can't tell which is which for a moment. And like the special effects were really good as far as like if you ever done acid, it looks like you're on acid. I mean, the way the tracers and everything are moving, they did a good job on that. But basically, he plays his music in front of the whole cult. She basically laughs at him, and then he's sitting here with his butt ass naked, getting ready to try to fuck her, and his little dick out, and he couldn't get a hard on, so she starts laughing at him, and he starts trying to get himself hard, and he can't do it, and then he's like, looks at all the other cult members, and he's like, don't you look at me, don't you look, I mean, it was laughable, really, it was a really awkward, laughable scene, but, they end up killing her, and in front of Nicolas Cage, and so he goes to get revenge. Well, while the killers are getting away, he's getting himself ready to go get revenge. Of course, he takes time to forge his own tool of destruction, makes this big ass sword battle axe combo piece. Who the fuck does that? Oh, they're getting away, but I'm gonna take the time to forge a weapon real quick before I go. Anyway, he goes after the biker monster mutants, whatever the fuck these things are. It's supposed to be four dudes that like took some acid and then they just never came back from their trip. But in the movie, they aren't like human beings. They look like monsters and like they've got like appendages and shit. It's fucking weird, man. But basically, he goes after them and kills them, and it takes an hour, almost an hour and a half till we get to that of the 2 hour runtime, and this movie could have been condensed down to about a 30, 45 minute movie. Um, after he kills them, he takes like a shard of glass, dips it into this big pile of crank, and does like an ounce, like a fucking bump, like just snorts the whole thing in true Nicolas Cage fashion. So that was kind of cool, and he did a hit of acid that like made him see the universe, which was cool. And there were some cool sequences of animation dribbled in here and there throughout the film. It was very reminiscent of like Heavy Metal, if y'all remember that. But all in all, I mean, he goes after he reaches the cult. There was, some killings. None of the special effects were too good. Nothing really grand about it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was a movie that was very awkward and odd. And like, I went into it totally blind. I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't read up about it. I just watched it. And I was like, the first hour, I was so fucking bored. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna make it through another hour. But I toughed it out. It was the biggest waste of time. Uh, it was crap. And I have nothing good to say about this movie for real. It was a total waste of time. There's a few snippets of animation that were kind of cool, but the nothing else. No, the acting sucked. The characters sucked. The story sucked. It was nothing new, nothing original, nothing entertaining. I would not watch this movie for anything. And man, Nicolas Cage, what I'm saying, I was kind of excited to see him in an indie film, what I'm saying. I don't think he's the best actor in the world, but he's been in a few films I enjoyed, and I guess he was just slumming or something. I don't know, man, but do not watch Mandy. It is a total waste of time, and I wouldn't wipe my ass with it. So, this is Nick with what I'm watching. Until next time.